Page 5 now. Immigration reform, so-called. It's the president's plan, and it was passed by the Senate. Right now it's stalled in the House, but far, far from dead. However, that is not good enough for radical immigration activists. They are now talking about a Plan B. It would involve the White House and the president issuing executive orders for now. In the meantime, Obama continues to bash House Republicans who are holding up his immigration plan.
Put forward a bill that has an opportunity to actually pass. It may not be precisely what's in the Senate bill. My preference would be for them to go ahead and call the Senate bill, but if they've got some additional ideas, I think the Senate's happy to consider them. And get that bill on the floor. Put it up for a vote. I am absolutely certain that the votes for the Senate bill, which strengthens border security, demands responsibility from undocumented workers to pay a fine, pay a penalty, get to the back of the line, reforms our legal immigration system, holds employers accountable. I am absolutely confident that if that bill was on the floor of the House, it would pass.
Radical pro-open border groups like La Raza say the current bill doesn't go far enough. So what do they want? Here now, co-founder of the Tea Party Express, Howard Kaloogian. I think it's a rhetorical question when you say to these groups like La Raza, what do they want? Well, they want open borders. They basically want to take over America and make it a free-for-all.
That's absolutely right. And in fact, this bill that the president's talking about, granting amnesty to people through a convoluted process of paperwork, what they're objecting to is the bureaucracy involved. They'd rather it just be done by edict. And that is the way it's done, Graham, in other parts of the world where dictators simply dictate. And that's what they want, what they call Plan B. They would like to see the president do what he's already done in a number of instances. For instance, when he decided arbitrarily not to enforce the current law against certain undocumented aliens, right, illegal aliens, and allow them to be here and not prosecute them. They want to expand that to the point of basically granting the amnesty through a government edict.
So what would happen here essentially is the president, if there is no immigration reform bill passed that he wants or anything close to it, or these radical groups, anything close to what they want,
right,
the president would come in here with some sort of executive orders or and say, hey, let's freeze the amount of illegal immigrants, whatever number that is right now, and allow them worker status or something of that nature?
Well, how are they going to freeze it? None of this makes any sense, but it does to a person who comes from a third world mindset where they have dictatorship and where they don't respect our law. After all, if they came into the country illegally, not respecting the law at the border, why should they respect the system of laws that we have, which separate the powers of government between the legislative, executive, and judicial branch? What they're looking for is a monarchy approach where the leader, the dear leader, simply makes a dictate to give them what they demand, even though what they demand is not coming from what the citizens want. I mean, if you poll anybody in this country, I think you'll get an overwhelming response. 70, 80% want our current laws enforced. We see it as being fair. We'd like to free it up from some of the bureaucracy that is there for the higher-end immigrants, people with certain skills, certain talents that we need for the workforce. But frankly, this flood that we're getting right now, because it has been opened up, and the president's done this on his own, he said, if Congress doesn't act, I will. Right. He's encouraged this, and now people are coming over claiming to be refugees.
Yeah. Now, you got to hand it, though, to the Democrats, the progressives, the liberals. They always have their eye on the ball for the future. They're always, looking at about 2-3 years down the road, or maybe even longer. And that's exactly what the Republicans and conservatives should be doing, by the way. But what they're thinking about here is if Hillary is elected in 2016, then she can chip away at this again, and maybe, who knows, maybe they'll have a Congress in their control again like they did in 2008 and 2009.
Well, we at the Tea Party Express intend to prevent that from happening, because I think that we'll not only hold the House, we'll also hold the Senate. The White House, that's another issue, but that is what they're hoping. They're hoping that the next president will be even more radically liberal on this issue than the current president is, even though the current president has shown that he will make waivers in Obamacare and he will cause in Obamacare delays that he can't justify, that the law does not permit. So if he's breaking the law in Obamacare, his signature piece of legislation, why won't he break the law here with the immigration and create a plan B where he just by dictates grants the amnesty that they're looking for?
How did we even get here in this debate with immigration reform? I don't even know. We skipped some stages here. And to the logical person, and I think you would agree with this also, the logical person is, let's protect our borders first. Let's get our national security in order first. Then we can talk about dealing with the folks who are here illegally, whatever that number is. I mean, they throw out 11 million, but some people believe it's double, maybe even triple that number. So let's lock down our borders first. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, they actually passed a law a number of years ago that said they were going to build 700 miles of fence, and I think they built about 36 miles and then said, no, we're not going to follow that law either. And so there really is no will to enforce the border in either party, and we'd like to change that. We'd like to see people actually respect our laws, starting with, of course, their oath to the Constitution.
Right, but how do we get that done now? I mean, it didn't happen under George Bush. George Bush had, well, he didn't have 8 years of that. He had about 6 years, I think, with congressional control as well.
I think
and they didn't address the issue.
That's
it's kind of disappointing.
It's very disappointing. That's why we're trying to elect more conservatives who understand that the enforcement of the law is the key step in restoring the greatness of our country.
All right, Howard, thank you. Coming up next, Obama pushing his agenda and at taxpayer expense as the Daily Ledger continues.